Hi, everyone, and welcome to Good Morning Sunshine. I'm Carrie Pena. Right now, we are talking about mental health and healing trauma. I want to welcome to our studio Libby Pierce from Mind 24/7. Libby, thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Mind 24/7 is a new approach to mental health healing, 24-hour accessibility to care. Talk about the model.
Yeah, it's pretty revolutionary. It is immediate access for anyone. That means no referral needed, no insurance needed, no provider appointment needed. Just walk in and you can see a provider within 20 minutes. That's phenomenal. When I'm in a clinic and I'm referring my patient for mental health care because they need it right then, it's literally at least 6 weeks to 3 months before I can get them to someone that they really do need to see right then.
And that's one of the big problems with mental health care in our country is if you find yourself in a position where you need help, you need it that second, if it's for you or for your loved ones. And a lot of times then you call and you can't get in to see anyone.
Right, it's essential. It's essential. People hit bad spots and bad spaces, and that's when really horrible things can happen.
You have been a nurse for 30 years and you've been in the health and healing industry and you've studied a lot about trauma. Talk about what we can do to heal trauma, because everyone has trauma in some form or fashion.
Sure, and especially as a nurse practitioner for 5 years doing primary care and intensive primary care. Our trauma is a reality of just being human. You know, it's in our world, there's brokenness. Everyone has it. I don't care what echelon of life you're living in, where you've come from. There is no socioeconomic group that is immune from trauma, from brokenness, right? The reality with trauma, though, and brokenness, is that if we don't take the time to really do intentional healing and be mindful of it, it will affect us. It does affect our adulthood. It becomes something that propels us forward. And instead of us making intentional, mindful choices in our later years, adult years, in relationships, in our parenting, in our job choices, our careers, whatever, in any sphere, it will propel us forward. And it will either have good effect or really negative effect.
What can we do if someone is listening to you right now thinking, wow, how do I know, first of all, if I have unhealed trauma? You know, is it showing up? Are there symptoms? What should I be looking for? And then if I am identifying some level of trauma, what do I do? What are the next steps?
Sure. I think it's always good to just take a mindful moment to sit back and look at my life, look at my relationships. Those symptoms will come out, right? Everybody talks about triggers. Well, if you're having triggers, if you're feeling like you're having responses to life that you don't think are healthy or other people don't think are healthy, that might be a symptom that, hey, I've got some trauma to look at.
Like what? Can you give some examples?
I think that mindfulness and that self-assessment in relationships are really important. One of the things I look at for myself and others is I ask, am I having any kind of fight or flight response to a situation? Am I shutting down? Am I not really interacting? Am I not being the person I want to be or I think would be healthy to be in this interaction, in this relationship?
And if you are identifying signs of trauma within yourself, what can you do?
I think there's so many different avenues to healing. I don't think there is just one prescription. I don't. I think that our first item on the list is to be mindful and honest with ourselves. And even ask the people around us, you know, do an assessment with them. Do you see something in me that's kind of unhealthy? Do you think there's something I need to look at? I think that we need to be in relationships of trust for that to happen. That trust is the only power of change. That trust, once we're in a relationship of trust, then we can connect. You know, a connection, I was going to go back to that as well. I think that power to connect can be a symptom of an unhealed trauma or brokenness. If we're not having the connection with our world, with the people in our world, with the relationships in our world that are really healthy and whole, that's another symptom that I need to look at.
So then what do you recommend people do next? Because you talk about that you feel, having worked in this field for so long, you feel that no level of brokenness, you know, is that we can all repair our brokenness. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to hold the hope that you are not destined to be where you are today. You're not destined to repeat the things that have happened in your family history. You are not an identity of a pathology. You know, when you have a diagnosis, I always teach my patients, you are not your diagnosis. You're far more. You're a person, and you have a life to look forward to. There's always the hope of change. I think people need to have that. I think they need to know that, yeah, there's power to change, and I'm going to start looking for it. And those little inroads of change can come from counseling. They can come from books, from podcasts. I think there's so many different avenues where we gather that information. And I really believe that we will be transformed. And that's what we all want. We want to be transformed. We want to live a life that's renewed.
So what I hear you saying is make sure you're identifying places of trust. If you trust, then you can tell your honest story. And that's the first step, right? Yeah. Making connections, whether that be a person who you connect with, or you find a book, a podcast, something. So you're connecting, you're not isolated, because isolation is a big problem right now in the world of mental health, right? Yeah. What is your level of concern about people being isolated and then holding all of that trauma, anxiety inside?
You know, speaking of isolation, I think the whole phenomena of COVID brought to a boiling point, a very critical mass moment of that isolation. It had already begun because of social media. We began to live our lives online. And then COVID happened, and everything became very much online. Basic relationships became not really eye to eye any longer, but we had this whole Zoom mentality. We'd have a Brady Bunch event every day for basic relationships, and it's so unnatural, but we've taken those lack of lessons in relationship, and now we come back out of COVID, and we don't have those skills anymore. We've lost something in developing intimacy, true intimacy. We're looking online for relationships when really real relationships happen eye to eye, face to face. So that isolation has really served to bring to a boiling point crisis, mental health, yeah.
What is your takeaway message for people who want to start a healing journey for themselves?
I think if you are in crisis, it's so important to listen to that. Don't shy away from it. Use that as the important moment that's been given to you to finally make that launch into something brand new. Something like Mind 24/7 is available for that very thing. You can come and immediately begin the process of that healing journey. And it is a journey, right? And I think accept that it is a journey. Don't shame yourself. Don't be locked in that shame. Shame will stagnate your whole life and infect everything around you. Be aware of it and be brave enough to come out of it and form those relationships of trust and seek that connection to heal.
You are not broken.
Right. You're not destined to be broken. You're destined to be whole.
I love that. Libby, thank you so much. Really appreciate you and Mind 24/7, all the good work that you're doing in the community. I know that this model is spreading. More people are paying attention to 24-hour access to mental health care, and that's very important. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for watching. Good morning, sunshine. I'm Carrie Pena.